back to it. So I guess I'll ask the audience, in terms of those that have a computer right now, who has already made the upgrade to Windows 10? Okay, a little bit more than half the audience. And some of you are contemplating, undecided right now, it sounds like, at the current time. Are you planning on doing it probably pretty soon on your system?
Depending on what I learn here.
Okay.
I'm happy with 7.
Sure, sure. And those that haven't moved yet, what are you using right now? Windows 7? How many of those are on Windows 7 right now? Any Windows 8?
I'm 7.
7? Okay.
I was 8 previous.
And now you're on 10?
Yes.
Okay.
I am 10 too.
You're on 10 too? Any Windows 8 people left? All right, I was one of the few left. I was using Windows 8 up until about 2 weeks ago, so I'm pretty fresh to Windows 10 as well. So just a little quick introduction about myself. This is our 3rd class over here at Lincolnwood Library. I love coming back here. We have a great crowd. We always have great topics that we discuss over here at Lincolnwood. We've done a Windows 8 class. We've done a computer security class, which is always packed and wonderful, has wonderful information. My name is Derrick. I run a local technology company called FireLogic. We have a scattering of customers in the crowd right now. I'm not going to point anyone out that have used us or do use us. And we are a technology company that provides residential support and business support. We primarily do commercial support these days, but we have a team that helps us with residential support. We upgrade computers, we fix malware problems, we do hardware upgrades, we do anything you would need on your computer in the home or office pretty much. We're an outsourced IT department just for you. I've got a scattering of certifications. I've been doing IT professionally now for just over 10 years at this point. I've been doing it since I was a senior in high school. To be honest with you, back when I was a student at Maine South, I worked for a competitor of mine in Park Ridge for a little bit. Then I went back to work for Maine South as a formal employee for a couple of years, doing support and training. And then I left there and I started FireLogic, because this is my passion, helping people with their technology problems and giving computer repair a little bit better name than it has, because I know that us geeks don't have the best reputation sometimes. So how is this class going to go? I wanted to provide a little bit of an overview on that, because some people's expectations of what we're going to be doing today may be a little bit different. I want to be very candid with you. Again, as I said, we're going to be focusing on the desktop side of Windows 10. I'm going to mention the tablet-centric functions briefly, since it's a small portion of what Windows 10 represents. But we will discuss it a little bit. I'm going to be making sure we go through a lot of demonstration, a lot of show and tell. That's what I like to call it. I'm not going to go deeply into one single topic. I want to cover a lot of little things to give everyone a taste of some of the items that you may not be used to, that you have not used yet, because there are a lot of new things that have just been introduced in Windows 10. So those are the things I'm going to spend the most time on during this class session here today. As we're going through, I don't mind small questions. As we're going along, raise your hand. I'll call on you. You can go ahead and ask if it's a question directly related to something I'm doing at the current time. If it's a long, drawn-out question about something personal about your computer, leave it to the end. I will do some formal Q&A, and then once we're done with class, when I shut off the mic, you can ask me any more personal items that is, related to just your situation, and we can discuss that further after class. So the agenda goes through the basic sections I'm going to be covering. It looks like a lot. Some of it's going to go a little bit faster than other spots. Our Windows 8 classes took more than 2 hours usually, because it was such a big new release. So this is not as massive. The changes in Windows 10 compared to what you've been using in Windows 7, not as monumental. They're smaller changes. I know the new start menu is like a big deal to a lot of people. It's not that big of a deal. It's got some nuances to it, but nothing that's going to really scare you if you're used to using Windows currently. And again, I left some white space on the agenda if you want to write down with a pen some notes that or questions for later on that you want to save towards the end. You can definitely feel free to do so for yourself. Okay? So let's start off with a little bit of a discussion about Windows 10 for those that don't have it on their computer yet, because I know that we're going to get those kind of people every single class, as we do, gentlemen right up front over here. So this part is for those users. So there's a lot of discussion out there about should I move, shouldn't I move? People tell me this, I heard this on the news. A lot of hot air out there. Just as with every Windows release or any technology upgrade that comes out, there's a lot of hot air floating around. There's some proper information, some improper. In the last 2 weeks, we've done about 6 to 7 upgrades to Windows 10 from Windows 7 and 8 for users. We've seen some good situations, some bad situations, and I want to fill you in on when you should move, what kind of computer you should consider moving to Windows 10, and what you shouldn't consider upgrading. Because there are some items, or computers, should I say, that are just too old, and I wouldn't recommend upgrading them to Windows 10. So some of the basics around upgrading. Everyone's going to have a full year to move to Windows 10. So from July 30th of this year to July 30th of next year, if you haven't moved your computer to Windows 10 and you want to, now is the time to do so. Because after that 1 year grace period window, Microsoft's not going to be giving away the free copy for you. So that's a limited time promotion. So again, if you're on the fence right now, you want to go ahead and make that decision sometime in the next, well, until next, next July. But I wouldn't miss the upgrade window, because after that you're going to be paying full price for Windows 10. $100 for the Home Edition or $180 for Pro, whichever you decide to go with. Microsoft's been saying that this is being considered, well, for what they're saying now, probably the last version of Windows they're going to make, and that's because Windows itself is turning into a product that's going to be working like a cloud service. They're going to be consistently updating it and upgrading it. So the whole, every 5 years of us having monumental new versions of Windows, it's not going to be happening anymore. This is the last big bang release from what we can tell, and they're going to be just adding on items as time goes on. So the changes as they're coming are not going to be as large and not going to affect your workflow like our previous releases always have, with big breaking of software, hardware compatibility, things like that. We're going to have gradual updates as time goes on. So that's one thing I want everyone to understand, that as far as we can tell, there is no Windows 11 on the horizon. It's Windows 10 almost indefinitely going forward. The only 2 versions of Windows that are entitled to the free upgrade, if you haven't upgraded yet, are Windows 7 or Windows 8. Windows Vista, Windows XP, anything older than Windows 7, you are not entitled to a free upgrade. So if you call us asking about it, that's the same answer I'm going to give you at that point as well. So only Windows 7 and above is entitled to the free upgrade. If you want to upgrade a machine older than that, running Windows Vista or XP, you're going to have to pay the full price for the software. Okay? In those situations where you have an older version than 7, I'm telling people just probably go ahead and buy a new computer. If you have a computer that's running Vista, for example, that computer is probably at least 6 to 7 years old, maybe older. That's too old. That's a little dangerous in my mind in terms of upgrading a machine to Windows 10. Not only is it going to have a lot of compatibility issues more than likely, but it's probably not going to run as fast and as speedy as you would like it to. Okay? Windows 10 comes in 2 main flavors for the most part. The ones that you guys have to worry about, pretty much a home or a pro version. And there actually is a resource on the back that I provided that tells you which edition you're entitled to, depending on what you have. If you have Windows 7 Home Premium or Home Basic or Windows 8 Home Edition, there is a table compatibility chart that I linked to on the back. It is the, which one is it? Upgrade, it's the first resource, Upgrade Pack Options. Which edition am I entitled to? You can go on that little short link I provided. It has a full table. What do I have now? What am I going to get if I upgrade to Windows 10? So that simple chart will let you know what you're going to be getting as part of an upgrade to Windows 10. And there are a few differences between the Home and Pro version. I do want to mention it because some power users maybe considering a Windows 10 upgrade or a Windows 10 system, but maybe better suited to get the Pro version of Windows for themselves. And those three main things are BitLocker, which is a full disk encryption for your system, which pretty much means if you've heard of like the Android tablets or the iPhones or the iPads where they can lock all the contents on the device, the BitLocker is the Windows alternative to that same kind of function. So if you lose your laptop, for example, all your files don't go into a thief's hands. So that's one thing we're kind of recommending for a lot of people that are getting mobile laptops these days. If you're going to be using it a lot on the go with confidential tax files and banking information being stored on there, you probably would want to consider getting a system that has the BitLocker, which is a Windows 10 Pro system. Domain join really only matters for those that are going to be using Windows 10 in the workplace. Those of you who are going to be doing that, you know who you are. And if you want to use the remote desktop functionality. Remote desktop is a little tool that you can use to connect to your system like a go to my PC at no cost. So you can go to my PC on your computer without having to pay a monthly service charge. The Pro version has that built right in. So it's pretty neat. We've got more than a few people that use that when they're traveling off their tablets and things like that. Before you were able to delay updates in terms of Windows updates, right? So that monthly process where Microsoft releases new patches for your computer, that used to be most of the time an automated process, but a lot of times people would be able to delay them or turn those off or have updates that they would skip on a monthly basis. Well, Microsoft said that's a thing of the past. Now, if you're in Windows 10, you're being forced to install all the updates that come out from Microsoft. And the reason they're doing that is that just so like the iPads and the Androids, everyone is on a nice standardized secure version of Windows that is getting updated on a consistent basis. So Windows Update is something that has changed for the better and is now pretty much you don't even have to think about it. If you install Windows 10, it does the updates and you don't have to worry about am I getting those for my computer. Okay? Moving along here, a few recommendations that I have in terms of the upgrade question. Should I do it or should I not do it? In general, we've been finding that systems that are older than what Intel calls the Intel Core series computer, so any computer for the most part that has come out in the last 5 years or so, 4.5 years or so, has the hardware needed to be compatible with Windows 10. If you're running an older system like a Pentium 4 or an Intel Core 2 or something like that, that's where I would say consider probably getting a new computer for yourself. That's running hardware that's a little bit too old and that's a little bit scary in terms of upgrading over to Windows 10. Okay? And again, if you have further question about your particular system and I'm running this and I've got this in there, ask me after class and I can give you a more accurate answer in terms of your situation. Again, these are just rules of thumbs we've been using. This doesn't apply to every single scenario. If you're going to do the upgrade as well on your own, make sure you do a full backup of your computer. I mean, that goes without saying these days. And if you're uncomfortable doing that, have a professional that knows how to do a full backup and then allow them to do that upgrade process for you. There are situations, as I said, 2 of our upgrades in the last 2 weeks to Windows 10 were botched and we had to roll back to Windows 7 or Windows 8 for those people, fix what we did wrong, what happened wrong, and re-upgrade. So I would fully recommend you do a full backup of your entire machine before doing the update, okay? And actually, if you roll over to Windows 10, if you update to it and you don't like something or something doesn't work the way you want it to, if you use the integrated update feature, it allows you to roll back to your old version of Windows up to 1 month later. So you have 1 full month grace period to roll yourself back to Windows 7 or Windows 8 if you just didn't like what happened with Windows 10. So do know that as well if you're going to go ahead and upgrade. There is an item, if you have a Windows 7 or 8 PC, you probably saw the little flag that showed up in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer. If you haven't moved, it probably is bugging you there every single day, asking you to upgrade to Windows 10. You can use that little icon in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can reserve your copy and install it for yourself right from there. And the nice thing about doing it that way is that it allows you to run the Upgrade Advisor that Microsoft offers, which is pretty much a compatibility checker. It'll give you green check marks. Yes, your hardware is good, and yes, your software is good. And if you don't get full green check marks without issues, don't do the update. You need to find out what is holding back that from giving you 2 green check marks. More than likely you have incompatible hardware or an old printer or an old something or software that's holding you back, but if you don't get 2 green check marks, don't do it. You're asking for trouble by going against their recommendation, okay? Some people have asked me, well, once I upgrade, Microsoft doesn't give me any kind of like serial key. Like when I used to go to the store and buy a copy of Office or Windows, I got a key code, right, that entitled me. That is kind of a thing of the past. If you go and buy a box copy of Windows 10, yes, you will still get the old school style key code for yourself, but most people that are upgrading from Windows 7 or 8, you're not going to get a serial code in any way. What's going to happen is Microsoft ties your computer to a special unique ID of your computer, so if you ever have to reinstall it, if it gets hit with malware or viruses and we have to blow it away and reinstall it, we're entitled to do so at any time down the road. So that gets stored into your Microsoft account when you do the upgrade. So that's how that works. In terms of time, how long does it take to do the upgrade? You'll probably notice it takes about, just for the install process itself, if you have a very fast computer, maybe about a half hour. If you have a little bit older machine, 2, 3, 4 years old, we've seen it take a couple of hours for it to fully finish the process. Again, it depends on how much software you have on there, how much specialized hardware you have installed, and how fast the computer is in general to process all the changes happening. So it's going to take a little bit of time to happen. Don't be scared if it doesn't happen in the time span you expected it to. So as I said, the easiest option update to Windows 10, if you haven't done it, use the little Windows flag that shows up on the bottom right-hand corner. That is the easiest way for you to do it yourself. If you're a little more technically inclined, like a power user, someone like me, or if you're very well acquainted with computer systems, you can go ahead and you can use what's called the Windows 10 Media Creation Tool. And that will let you do 2 things. You can just use that to install right away on your computer, or you can make a USB boot drive for yourself, which is a little USB key. You plug into your computer or another computer, and you can upgrade from that, or a standard old-style Windows DVD, just like we used in years past. So that tool allows you to make that kind of an installation media if you truly want to. Okay? And just as was the case with Windows 7, Windows 8, not Windows 7, you have the choice of using a local account when you sign into Windows 10 for the first time, or a Microsoft account. So a local account is one that doesn't have any tie with the Microsoft cloud services. You wouldn't be able to sign into to download the new, what's called the universal apps from the App Store for yourself. So if you really want to, you can use a local account, and you'll be given the option when you install or when you upgrade for the first time. I'm recommending for most people to just sign in with a Microsoft account. So make yourself a Microsoft account if you don't have one, or sign in with it, because there's a lot of benefits that come with it. You get your OneDrive connection that happens automatically for all your files that you save, so you can do the automatic backup with OneDrive right away. It allows you to synchronize all of your apps that you download from the Windows Store. So that can be stored up there, and it can remember that when you log into different computers, and it can reinstall those automatically. And there's a few other benefits that come along with it as well. So for the most part, I would say use a Microsoft account unless you really are scared of doing anything with the cloud or internet related in that manner. Okay? Any questions about upgrading to Windows 10? It's really all the time we're going to spend on should you move and the specifics around it. Nothing?
I have a question. At the end of the year,
Yes.
do you, because if you stay on to it after a year's time, do they now you have to pay for that Windows 10?
After July of next year? So is that what you're referring to? After July of next year?
After the year is up.
If you didn't, so the only thing that happens, if you're on Windows 7 or Windows 8 right now, and you want to upgrade for free, you have to do it by next July. If you don't care about paying the $100 to Microsoft for a copy, you can wait till after next July, but I wouldn't do it.
Is if I upgraded it now, at the end of that year period, when then it means that you can't do anything with it no more. Is Microsoft going to give us a charge for using it after that, or is this?
Will not.
a
If
free
you
all
get
the way
your
around?
upgrade, it's a good question. If you get your upgrade in the 1-year window, you will never be charged again for Windows 10. You are locked in.
Okay.
That's your grandfathering into being
what I
entitled to
wanted
it
to know.
for that computer. That's how they have for that computer. If you buy a new computer, it'll have Windows 10 on it, more than likely. But if you're going to buy another system that has an older copy of Windows right now, which is going to become harder and harder as time goes on, and you don't upgrade in that 1-year term, then you just have to pay if you wait until after July 30th of next year. That's the only thing it is.
Okay.
So it's not going to be a problem that's going to affect really that many people. Just the holdouts that are going to wait way too long. Was there a question in the back over there? Yeah.
I have a question about the hardware compatibility.
Sure.
I have an older printer.
Okay.
And it has older drivers installed on the computer. What do I do? Do I have to remove the whole older printer device before I upgrade?
I would say this. Removing it entirely and just reinstalling it after you upgrade may not be an option, because if it's not compatible on the Windows 10 compatibility list, it's not going to work after you move anyway. And I'm not saying that is the case or that isn't the case. You're going to have to check that, and I forgot to link to that page on the back of the agenda, but if you go to Google, you type in Windows 10 Compatibility Center, the first result you should get is a result from Microsoft, and that page is the master resource to tell you yes or no on anything that has been released in the world of hardware.
Will it tell you, for example, what drivers are incompatible so I know which drivers to remove?
If there are drivers that were out that are potentially incompatible, there will probably be a note section that will say you have to have at least driver version of this or this to be compatible with Windows 10.
And is there a printer that's more compatible with Windows 10 that I should look into buying?
I would say most printers released in the last 2.5 to 3 years have no problems. If it's older than that, that's when you start getting into the questionable choppy territory.
Is there one that uses less ink than some other one?
That's a tough question to answer. Right up front, I like to recommend a lot of HP's inkjet units. Not only do they have the most vendors selling third-party ink out there, which brings down the cost of replacing ink for yourself, or you can even go with Brother. Brother's also another good company that makes some good inkjet and laser printers. So I would say stick with Brother or HP. I don't like recommending Canon or Epson. They make very small ink tanks and they get sucked up way too fast. So just stay away from those two. But anything you find in the store today, almost everything in the store today that you're going to be able to pick up is compatible with Windows 10. I have not seen a case where that wasn't the truth. Yes?
When you said create a Microsoft account for yourself,
Mhm.
do you mean like a Hotmail account or?
So a Hotmail account is a Microsoft account already, yeah.
Anything.
So if you have a OneDrive account already, or you have a Hotmail account, or an Outlook.com account, you already have a Microsoft account. So that login to that is already your Microsoft account.
Anything other than that would work?
There are some other Microsoft services that allows you to use that account as a Microsoft account, but not everything. I mean,
Because right now on this computer I have Windows 10.
Okay.
And when I log into it, I use my Gmail account. But
Which is fine. So so a lot of people ask me that as well. Can I use a Gmail account as a Microsoft account? Yes, you can. When you sign up for a Microsoft account, it asks you what email address you want to use, and you probably just use your Gmail address for that. Doesn't change any of the capabilities or anything. It's perfectly fine. It's how I'm signed in right now on my computer with a Gmail account. So no problems there. Yes.
Before we were talking about the printer capabilities, how do you check if it's compatible?
That site that I was telling you in the back.
Type in something?
Yeah, if you go to google.com and type in Windows 10 Compatibility Center. 4 words.
So go to Google and type in Windows 10.
Compatibility Center. And it's a little page that Microsoft offers. You type in what kind of item that you're curious about, either hardware or software, and it'll say green check mark yes, or red X, which means no, not compatible with 10.
And I guess the other thing would be to just try to print something off the internet with the old printer and the Windows 10 on the PC. Is that correct?
To see if it works?
Yes.
Well, if you're going to go through the upgrade on your own, Microsoft will stop you from upgrading if it knows that printer is not compatible. So
Oh, really?
you won't even get the chance to move if it's questionable.
Okay.
It has to be confirmed as compatible before you're going to be allowed to
Oh,
move.
okay, because I already upgraded, so. I probably-
If you upgraded, then more than likely you're okay.
All right.
Then you're okay. So yes.
Well, like I asked you before, when Windows checks your computer,
Yes.
do they also check your printer at the same time to find out whether?
They check anything connected to your computer.
So nothing-
Any printers connected, anything plugged into that computer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Because all those devices are considered peripherals and all of them need drivers to function properly. So Microsoft's going to check with a fine-tooth comb every single thing you're using, by all means, yes.
Yeah, I had a printer, a scanner,
Mhm.
and then I am zero, with the computer. My nephew, the one, administrator the whole thing.
Mhm.
So he forced me to get to Windows 10. But,
Okay.
I have problem because he installed the OneDrive or Drive One.
Okay.
whatever, and now I cannot print. The printer is not working.
And you
It
said that only
send me to save, and then I save, and then I push print, and it doesn't print.
Well, I mean, there could be a few different
things. Back to save again.
Yeah, there could be a few different things going on. It could be a wrong default printer is chosen in Windows. It could be that there is some kind of incompatibility that came
So
up.
can I disconnect the OneDrive?
I don't think it's the OneDrive causing the issue, honestly. OneDrive doesn't
No,
cause
after-
printing problems.
After he
Well, it may look like that, but I've never seen OneDrive cause a printing problem. I think something else is going on
because
causing
before
it.
I had OneDrive, I didn't have the option to save, or I don't.
Well,
need
if you
to-
have the wherewithal and you know how to remove it from the machine, I would go ahead. You can try it, but I'm 99% certain it's not going to change a printing problem.
So what is the problem? Because
We can talk after class. I don't want to spend too much time on a personal problem like that. We can talk one-on-one after class, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, let's get moving here. How do you know if you have Windows 10? Very simply, if you click on the Start button, that is the new Windows flag logo, and if it takes you to a little menu that comes up and takes up a quarter of your screen, you're on Windows 10. Simple as that, and you'll know right away. If you click on it, it takes you to a full screen, start screen. You're on Windows 7, or you're in Windows 8. If you click on it and it brings up a smaller start menu, the older style, then you're in Windows 7. So that's the easy way to tell if you're on it or not. And as I said, if you don't have it, you can use the Upgrade Advisor or the Media Creation tool to move yourself over. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into some demonstrations on some of the new items that came as part of Windows 10. All right. So just really briefly, I wanted to highlight some of the biggest new items that are Windows 10 specific. So if you're coming from the older versions of Windows, what are some of the biggest things that you're going to see? Some of these I'm going to dive into with some detail. Some of these I'm just going to mention for the sake of mentioning. But here is a fairly concise list, and it's right on the agenda. The biggest changes since Windows 8, Windows 7. One of the biggest things is at the start screen. So in Windows, so let me minimize this. So my Windows 10 desktop here. If you were on Windows 8, when you clicked on that start button, that always took you over to the full screen, the full start screen, which pretty much looked like this. It's still available. You can still do it. If you like the start screen, some people out there do, some people love it. I was kind of mixed on it, but you can still go back and use it if you want to. I'll mention that a little bit later on. For desktops and laptops, so pretty much most computers with a keyboard and mouse that we use on a desk or on your lap, you're going to be in desktop mode, which is this mode. Start menu, desktop, and applications that you can move around with your mouse or your finger if you have a touch screen. The start menu, as I said, has returned. The start menu is now much larger. It includes all the capabilities that we used to have on the start screen in Windows 8, but it has brought them down into a manageable area then this little right-hand area over here, which is where we can pin different apps for ourselves. We can have news and weather, things like that. So some of that stuff that we have on like Android tablets or iPads, we can now have the best of that right in our start menu, but it doesn't take over your full screen. So for the desktop users that didn't like how Windows 8 treated you, if you have to be in full screen app mode or you could be on your desktop, that mess is over with Windows 10. There is an action center on the computer now. So if there's a little area, a little bubble on the right-hand side. It's kind of at the bottom of the screen. You may not be able to see it if you're all the way in the back. But the action center is an area that I'll touch on that allows us to see all the different notifications that we've gotten. There has been a notification area in Windows 7 and Windows 8, but now it's really nice and concise, and any application that is pushing you any kind of information or security, like your Windows firewall is off or you have antivirus updates that weren't done, all of that will come in here just like it does on your phone in your notification center. So that has been introduced as well in Windows 10. There is an item for those of you with tablets or using a Windows phone. There is an item called Continuum where you're able to, for the most part, the only device I know of that offers this just yet is like the Surface Pro. You've probably seen the commercials for the Surface Pro. It's the tablet with the keyboard that attaches to it. You can detach it. So the process of attaching and deattaching or removing the keyboard changes you from tablet mode, so full screen mode, like this, and back into desktop mode. So if you had one of those devices and you plugged your keyboard back in, you'd be brought back into regular desktop mode. So that change happens on the fly. So for your Windows 10 tablet, if you have a keyboard that attaches to it like that, Windows will automatically adjust for you at the proper time.
Didn't know that, thank you.
Yeah, so that's a tablet-only function that you want to be aware of. Okay? The charms bar was an item that was, if you brought your mouse in Windows 8 to the upper right or lower right-hand corner, it was a bar that came out, took up about 1/8 of the screen that allowed you to do searching, go into settings and things like that. The charms bar is gone. They removed it in Windows 10. A lot of people didn't even use it. The control panel as well, most of the settings, I will say most of the more common settings have been moved into from the control panel that we used to know. So most people know the control panel as this area with all the nitty-gritty little settings functions that we used to change and manage within here. While there is still a control panel, since some items are still controlled in this area, a majority of the most common settings are now available in what's called the settings area, for lack of a better term. That's actually what it's called, settings. And I'll point it out with my little laser pointer over here. So settings, here it is. Can't see it from this angle. So the settings area right over here, if you go to that is for the most part where you control most of your most common options. So again, things are divided into logical areas for you. You've got a system area, devices area to control your hardware, an area to control the different connections like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi for yourself, a personalization area where you can control your background and your font sizes and screen options and things like that, accessibility for text sizes for those of you that have a little bit smaller screen and want to boost the text size for yourself. So we have all these different areas that bring together a lot of those common settings under various categories. So again, it makes it easier than before where all this stuff was all scattered in the control panel and we had to remember what name it was. Now you just think of, okay, what's the logical area that I want to go for the setting I'm trying to change, go into that, and then I can make that adjustment right within there. So that's the new settings area that they have introduced. One of the coolest new things that is getting more powerful over time is an item called Cortana. So Cortana is something that started only on Windows phones about 2 years ago. But it's now something that's available on any Windows 10 machine. So you can use this. It's pretty much a personal assistant that you can use to do searches with. It can set reminders. You can check the weather quickly with it. I've got some neat commands I'll show you. There's actually a list of all the official commands that you can use against it with your voice without having to type anything, and that's in the resources area in the back of the agenda, but I'm going to go over that as part of a demonstration for how you can use Cortana in your day-to-day life, because that's one of the biggest neat things things that Windows 10 has introduced is that Cortana integration. Moving along, the Windows Store. So the Windows Store is where we can get all those neat apps like Flipboard, like our news apps, like our weather apps, like our sports apps. If you use an iPhone or an Android phone, you know what the app stores are. Windows has its own app store that you can get apps from. And one of the neatest things that I'm going to go over when we go over the apps is that now you can go ahead and you can use them in windowed mode. What do I mean by windowed mode? So if I open up my Flipboard app, I can drag it anywhere I want. In Windows 8, I have to have it in full screen mode, or I could do it kind of like a split screen mode, which was okay, but this is the ideal way to use it because I can go ahead and I can use all the new snap functionality that Windows 10 has. So I could stack that over here, I could bring this up over here, and I could stack things, hold on, upper left, lower left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner. So I can now snap multiple windows on my screen for myself, and if I have multiple computer monitors, it gets even better because then I can have 8 quadrants or more quadrants for myself. So the multitasking aspect of using the new apps and our traditional desktop apps, they all work side by side now, which was never the case previously. So that's a really neat functionality as well. So we'll go into the apps in just a tad.
How did you find that again?
What that, the apps?
The Flipboard.
Oh, Flipboard was actually just an app I got in Windows Store. So if you click on, you can go into your start menu and go into the Windows Store from here. I just click on my Windows Store icon right on the bottom. And if I do a search, and we'll go into searching for apps in here in a little bit, but I could just do a search for Flipboard, hit enter, and it should be the first result I get. So Flipboard was one of the apps I always showed up in my Windows 8 classes. It's a digital magazine app that has pages that flip virtually. It's a really cool app, and maybe I'll show a little bit of it when we get to Universal Apps in just a tad. Another neat item that I'm starting to use a lot is virtual desktops. So if you're on a Mac, you may have used this kind of functionality in the past. It's a feature that allows you to go ahead and have a virtual desktop. So how does that look? A virtual desktop is pretty much a desktop that I could have that's running in the background where I could have different things inside of it. And I'm going to show off virtual desktops in more detail a little bit later, but it's a very simple function that every Windows 10 machine has access to. I can click on my little task view and I can set different apps to run on different desktops. So if this is useful for power users, if you're working on a homework assignment or you're working on creating a document of some sort or doing something where you have a lot of programs open related to something particular, you can have those open on one desktop, and then you can have a desktop open with just your email, for example, so you don't get confused of what's running where. And I can even move applications between desktops. So I can maybe move this over here, move this back over here for myself, and move those programs between those different virtual desktops. So very neat, and again, I'm going to show that in full detail of how that works once we get to the virtual desktops. Internet Explorer, the dreaded Internet Explorer that a lot of people either love or hate, is, I won't say gone. You can still find it if you need to, if you have some websites that refuse to work with the new browser. But for the most part, most people are going to be using the new web browser called Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge is a brand new web browser that is built from the ground up. It has no legacy code left over from Internet Explorer. So that goes without saying that it may have some compatibility issues with some websites that required Internet Explorer in the past. So if you need to use some of those sites that require Internet Explorer, I'll show you how to find IE behind the scenes, and you can still use it if you have to, but Microsoft is really kind of getting people to just try and use Microsoft Edge. It's faster, it's safer, doesn't have all the security holes that used to be with Internet Explorer, so it's a lot of good new things that have come along with one new application. As you can see, it's more built to look like Chrome or Firefox. It's got the tabs, of course, a very minimalistic interface, cleaner, uses a lot less junk room for menus and things like that, so we'll go into Edge as well. And it's got some neat functions that you can't do in Firefox or Chrome, and I'm going to show you that functionality as soon as we get to that section, okay? And the last thing, I won't go into these in too much detail, but there are new built-in email, calendaring, and contact apps within Windows 10. They come pre-installed right away. You don't even have to go and find them in the Windows Store. But there's a mail app that you can use and you can connect your email accounts into. So I would say if you're used to using Outlook Express before, or Outlook, or Thunderbird, this is probably the new email app that you want to connect your email account into. It's the cleanest experience. It's very lightweight. It's built for all the new functionality that Windows 10 offers. There's nothing in here because I wasn't going to put my email account in there for obvious reasons. But you can connect that on your Windows 10 machine very, very easily.
Can I ask, so you don't have the Windows Live Mail anymore?
Windows Live Mail is for the most part extinct. Yeah, shouldn't be using Windows Live Mail. Windows Mail is the new mail program that you should be using in Windows 10.
I mean, I still have Live Mail on my computer. Is it just don't use it?
You could have it because it came as part of your upgrade, so it allowed it to stay. But there's going to be a date where Microsoft cuts that program off entirely.
Just use
So
the mail on here?
I would use the Mail app.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Live. One thing to know is that the Live Mail program is not getting any more updates. It hasn't got an update in like 3 years at this point. So it's aging. It's got a lot of security holes. Windows Mail is going to be updated indefinitely by Microsoft. So a lot safer from that perspective.
What is live mail? Is that?
Live Mail is like an email program that Microsoft released like between 2009 and 2012.
Like instant messaging?
No, it's a program that you would use to check your email on your computer. So instead of going to a website, you would open up this program that would allow you to check all your email. It's called Live Mail. I never liked it very much.
Will it transfer, your old email transfer to the new email without any problem?
It will if you're using, I'll talk to you more after class about that. That's a particular question that may take a little more time to answer, but it should transfer all the mail for you automatically, yes. Go ahead.
Is it best to uninstall Internet Explorer then if you've got the Edge?
You will not be able to uninstall it.
Uninstall Internet Explorer.
You can't uninstall it. No. It's a forced program that has to stay because there's some legacy programs that still rely on it. But for the most part, you won't be able to find it unless you go searching for it. So I'll show you what that's all about. But for the most part, you will not see it on your desktop. You'll see the new Edge logo, which is where you should be going for doing internet browsing. Or Chrome or Firefox. I'm not saying you have to use Edge. I'm saying it's there for you by default if you choose to use it. Yes, go ahead.
I use AOL, and would that automatically just transfer?
You can, I believe, connect your AOL account within Windows Mail. I'm fairly certain you can.
It does, I have it.
So, there we go. We've got confirmation.
On the Windows Live Mail, can that be deleted? Can I delete that?
Once you connect yourself into the new Windows Mail app, yes, you can go ahead and uninstall the Live Mail program.
Uninstall it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd recommend doing that because you'll save yourself a lot of space that program was probably eating up behind the scenes. So, any other small questions? All right, let's keep moving.
You have a question, right? Laura has a question.
What was that? Yes.
If you have games on your Windows 7 machine, will they be compatible when you download 10?
Again, that goes into the upgrade process. The compatibility checker will go through and tell you if there's any games that need to come off before you install Windows 10. So if that checker comes back and gives you a green check mark on the software side and says all good, then you have no games that are going to cause issues.
And I have a Windows 10 over here, but
Yes.
I can't bring up anything that you are bringing up.
You cannot bring up anything?
No, my control panel looks very different than yours.
Can you turn your screen so I can just see it really quick? Yeah, so this is not Windows 10. This is actually Windows 8 still. So let me show everyone. Let me show everyone really quickly, just so we know. So when I told everyone how to check if you're running Windows 10 or Windows 8, if you're running Windows 8 and you click on your Start button, you're going to go into Start Screen, full Start Screen. This is not Windows 10. This is still Windows 8. So if this happens, when you click on the Start button, you're still running the older Windows 8, okay? So good live example of that. So you'll have to go through and do a check and upgrade yourself later on, okay?
Is that a computer?
That was a regular laptop, as far as I can tell, right? Just a regular laptop?
It's a tablet.
A tablet? Convertible tablet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause mine
Should be fine.
doesn't do that.
All right, let's get going here. We're going on at 3 o'clock, and we're just on schedule here, so that's good. So let's jump into the new start menu. A lot of people, this is the thing that scares them the most. This is what they're hearing about a lot. So what does this new start menu look like? What does it consist of, and how has it changed since Windows 7 for you? So if we go ahead and we click on the bottom left-hand corner, that is where the start menu resides, just like it did in Windows 7 and previously. And it's got a few main sections that you need to know about. So starting with the upper left-hand side, this is what's called the profile area, and this is pretty much just telling you who's logged into the computer at the current time. If it's just your computer, there's not going to be different users most likely on it, so we don't have to worry about that, but it will show you if it's a shared family computer, whose account are we on right now. It'll show you your name, it'll show you your profile icon in that little left-hand area. If you click on your name, so you can go ahead and all times know, whose account are you on. So an easy way, especially for families with a single desktop where everyone shares it, you can easily tell who's logged in just with that. And of course, I can do a sign out. I can lock my computer right from there. One of those things where those functions that you can get to in many different areas are shown, like the lock and sign out options. There's multiple ways to do a lot of things in Windows 10. And that's one thing I'm going to mention early on and as we go along. I may show you how to do something one way. You may find a different way to do it. Am I wrong? Are you wrong? Who's right? Who's wrong? Everyone's right? There's the beauty of Windows is that there's multiple ways to get to many different options. So just because you go home and try it some other way and it still works, that's fine. Do it the way you like to do it. I'm not here to preach the one way that something is meant to be done, okay? So continuing on, that's our little profile icon. If we go down on the middle left-hand side here, this is the list of the most used applications. Now again, this hasn't been customized heavily for me yet because I just installed Windows 10 pretty recently on the system, but as I start using it, my list of apps here is going to get customized for the things that I do. So in Windows 7, we had that as well. When you opened up your Windows 7 start menu, pretty much all the apps you saw there were your most commonly used apps. That same concept exists here. It's just that they use a little less space for it. Any new apps that you install, so the most recently installed application, for example, I just installed Microsoft Office Sway a couple of hours ago, and that is showing up right over here as my recently added item. So your last added program will always show right over there on the middle left-hand side under the recently added area. If you have a little more screen real estate, it might show 2 items or 3 items. I don't know. I haven't used it on many different screen sizes yet, so I couldn't tell you the answer to that. But again, in general, this is our commonly used or recently installed apps list. And this is going to show items that are from the Windows Store. So this is one thing to keep in mind. Since Microsoft is considering Windows Store apps and traditional apps, like old school Microsoft Office and Quicken and TurboTax, which are the old school style apps, they're all considered as working side by side. So everything will be showing in the same list. You could have older apps with newer apps and one stacked on top of one another. So you're all going to see those items in the same list. So you don't have to think of, well, do I have to go somewhere else for my Windows Store apps or somewhere else for my traditional apps? They're all sharing the same list space. Okay, so that's one big thing I want to make clear right up front. Go ahead.
Does Windows 10 allow you to write a business letter, or do you have to purchase Office? Is Sway, is that the new?
Sway is a new version of PowerPoint, not related to letter writing. But I think that, we'll check it right now. WordPad used to be the free app that you could use to type very basic letters, and I'd be shocked if it's gone. It still exists. Yeah, so for very basic letter writing with very little formatting options, WordPad is what you can use. But anything more complex, you probably want to either get Office or download LibreOffice, which is the open source free Office.
If I have an Office 2000 version, would it work on this?
Office 2000? No, Office 2000 will not. I will say, I'm fairly certain that the oldest copy of Office you can install on Windows 10, I think is Office 2007. 2007, yeah. That's the last version that you can use. Anything older is considered extinct at this point.
Can you use OpenOffice?
You can use OpenOffice. Yeah, that's fine too.
There are some apps that are Word and Excel, and you can use it. I don't
Yep, so Word and Excel is part of the Office suite. That's what we were just talking about, is installing the formal Microsoft Office. And you can most definitely use that.
Well, doesn't that come with the upgrade?
Does not. Microsoft Office does not come as part of Windows 10. You get icons that allow you to upgrade to it and install it for a paid fee, but it doesn't. They don't give you free Office.
What is the called again? Office Suite?
There's two options. You can go the paid route, which is Microsoft Office, which is what most people know and like. Or there is the free one that we were talking about, Open Office, which is a stripped down sort of a clone of Office.
What is that called again?
Wait, the second one or the first one?
The second.
Second one's called Open Office, all one word.
The
Open
free one.
Office. Okay?
So that
I will say this though, if you are running a tablet that doesn't have the full version of Windows 10 that has desktop mode, you may not be able to use Open Office. That's only for full-blown desktop and laptop computers. Okay?
I have it on my desktop.
So continuing on with the Start menu, lower left-hand side, that's sort of our common settings and common shutdown option area. If you look over here, there's a quick little list to go into File Explorer. That's where we can get into all of the items on our computer. So what people used to consider my computer, right? We used to go in and get to our flash drives and DVD drives and your C drive through here. Of course, it still exists. It's just called File Explorer now. And we can get to that right off of the Start menu. And we can even use the little arrow on the right-hand side to get into the jump list. So if you have documents you've opened recently or files you've gone into recently, those will show up over here as part of the jump list. So a quick little way you can easily get into commonly or recently used files. The settings area that I showed you earlier, also available, brings you right into those common settings, Windows Update, change accounts, add accounts, change your time, Wi-Fi settings, things like that. Your power options, how do I shut my computer off? One of those common first questions we get when someone upgrades to Windows 10. So that's available right over here. If we open up the Start menu and click on the little power option, you'll get a nice little sub-menu that comes up that allows you to put it to sleep, shut it down, or restart it. Okay? So that's the lower left-hand area with the little power button that shows right there. The same kind of functions, if you're used to them in the past, still apply. If you're closing your laptop lid, it'll go to sleep. If you're holding down or hitting the power button, it'll probably go through a shutdown process. So the same kind of ways we are used to putting our computers to sleep or using the power button, those will still carry over with Windows 10. No big changes with regards to that. And again, that's on a per computer basis. Some computers handle that just a little differently than others. And the All Apps list. If you want to see at a glance all of the different programs that are installed on your computer at any given time, the secret place to get that is the All Apps list. Lower left-hand corner in the Start menu. If I hit that, it brings up an entire list of everything on my machine. So that little recently added area is expanded at the top over here. So you can see I installed ESET very recently, Camtasia Studio, Office Sway. Those are the things that I just most recently put on. And then starting below that is my entire list of items categorized by the starting character of the title of the app. So my A section, my C section, E, F, alphabetical, continuing onward. So all of my apps on my computer, everything that's on here that's installed is available in this list over here. Okay? And again, that's modern Windows Store apps and also traditional apps. As you saw, Camtasia over here, well, it's showing under the new era. Camtasia Studio is a traditional app. It's showing on there. What else? ESET is a traditional app. That's showing on there. And then I've got other stuff. Fox News, Flipboard, Skype, Groove Music. Those are all Windows Store apps. So they all share the same Start menu space. So again, it makes it easy for you to really quickly go in and get any of your apps that you want to go ahead and use. Okay? So that's the left-hand side, the All Apps area. Now if we get into the right-hand side, so the right-hand side, what I consider the right-hand side in the Start menu is pretty much all this space over here. We'll draw a little box here. Come down over here. That is our area for all of our modern Windows Store apps. And that's all that goes in that area is the modern Store apps. So if you came to our Windows 8 classes or you ever used the Start screen, there was the concept of live tiles. These are all considered tiles that we can move around. They represent different apps that we've gotten from the Windows Store. And these can be moved around. These can be resized. These can be removed. These can be moved into different sections here that have different names. By default, there are some default sections that are in here, like Life at a Glance, Play and Explore, that we can rename the titles on those groups of if we want to have a section of just like my work apps, my weather apps, my news apps, so you can customize that for yourself, and I'll show you how to do some of those things on your own computer. So I customized my start menu area a little bit for how I want to have it. I resized this tile over here. So let's go through some of those functions. So at a glance here really quick, we've got different sections. If I bring my mouse over these different sections over here, right now I have 4 different primary sections: Life at a Glance, Play and Explore. I can move these as I wish to different areas of my start menu. I can go ahead and I can rename them as well. So if I wanted to rename this area up here, I can click on this little drop down item over here. It brings up some text space, and I can rename that. Maybe I'll call that gaming. And this section over here I can rename, hit my little 2-line menu over here, and I can call this work apps for myself. So now they have names. Now I can customize my little drop zones for where I want to place certain apps for myself. So say there's an app, so by default there are apps on here that I might not want to keep on this list. I can simply go ahead and I can right click on it, like this Groove Music. I don't care for it, I want to get rid of it. I can right click on it and I can choose Unpin from Start. And that'll get rid of that particular tile completely from the pinned tile app area over here. It doesn't uninstall the app. One thing to keep in mind, just because I've gotten rid of the app on my start menu doesn't mean it's gone from my computer. I can still get to it by searching for it or by looking in my entire apps list for it. So under G, Groove Music is still there. If I want to put it back into my start menu, I can title it, I can go ahead and I can pin it to start. So I can do this. I can right click on the icon, pin to start, and it brings a little tile back that I can move and place anywhere I want. And all I'm doing is holding down with my left click button and moving it to wherever I want it. If you're using a tablet and you don't have a mouse to use, what you're doing is you're using a touch gesture. You're holding down and pressing with your finger. You'll be brought into sort of like a rearranged mode where you can move your tiles around and then you can move it with your finger to where you want to place it. So same concept exists. It just depends on if you're on a mouse or a touch screen. I can resize tiles as well if I want to. So for example, I like my news app being very large because I want to see some of the newest news stories at a glance without having to go into the app itself. I can right click on that and I can go into resize and I can change that. Right now it's set to large. I can change it to be very small, to be just an icon, or I can make it a little bit bigger in the middle here. I can make it a wide item if I want to. So different apps have different size options that you can choose for yourself. It all just depends on what that particular app allows you to do. And you won't know until you right click on it and choose the resize option. Some of them don't have all 4 settings like this. Okay? So I showed everyone how to move those apps around for yourself, and everything, as you see, rearranges on the fly. So if I move this around and tuck it over here, this gets moved, that gets moved, I get a little bit of space, up and above it, below it. So it's fully malleable. I can change around my lists as I please over here, and then move my entire sections if I want to. So I can stack it if I want. If I like it to be taller and just not go out as far, I can stack them, and then I just have a scroll bar I can use for that, but I'm going to bring that back out as I want to keep that a little bit smaller for myself. Any questions about moving around the apps? Very simple. Not many functions that you can do. It's either a left click hold or it's a right click on the actual app icon. Other than that, there's no other items you have to worry about in terms of organizing those apps for yourself here. And again, unlike Windows 8, where if you launched an app, it'd bring you into full screen and then you have to worry about what was on the screen at that time, this works just like we know and love from previous versions of Windows. So if I open up my news app over here, I can have that open in a window. I can go back in. I can open up, say for example, my Flipboard app. I can do it side by side. put that over there, have that on the right-hand side. I could do a split screen view if I want to. So again, just like we're used to moving around windows in the past, we can do the same thing now with these new modern style apps that Microsoft has. And I guess that goes without saying, we should jump into the store really quick so I can show you all how the Windows Store looks and feels, because that's something that most of you, unless you're using Windows 8 heavily, you're probably not used to the Windows Store. So how does that work? The Windows Store is something that relies on you being signed into your Microsoft account. So if you go in and you're on a computer with a local account and you didn't sign in with your Microsoft account, you're probably going to be bugged over and over. Sign in with your Microsoft account. Sign in with your Microsoft account. It's because these apps rely on you being signed in with a cloud account. Just like if you're on an iPhone, just like if you're on an Android with a Google account. That works the same way on a Windows device. Multiple ways I can go into the Windows Store. I can choose to go into the Start menu, and there should be a store icon over here that's showing by default, so I can go in through here. Or I can click on the little store icon on the bottom taskbar area for myself if I want to. So all the way at the bottom down there. I'm going to go through this way and show everyone how it looks. It'll always look the same. So it's pretty much an application that we can move around and tuck behind the scenes, or minimize it if we don't want it, close it if we don't want to use it, full screen it if we want to use it in full screen view. And it's organized in much of the same way as we're used to on the iPhones or the Android devices. You've got major categories that you can look between and check out different apps. So of course all the most popular apps will be highlighted up front. With less popular items being further down in the list. All the top free apps you can go ahead and you can browse over here. Most people are going to be going ahead and searching, unless it's a very popular app and you know what category it's going to be under. I would just recommend searching for it. For example, we can do Wall Street Journal. If I want to go ahead and find the app for Wall Street Journal, I do a search for it, and there it is. It'll come up under the apps area over here. One thing to keep in mind is if you do a search for something very generic that is in multiple different areas, like there is a movie of the same name or a CD of the same name as an app that you're looking for, you'll get different sections that will come out. See, as you saw here, I did Wall Street Journal. There are albums that got found. There are apps that were found. So you have to be wary of also looking for contextually what category you're looking at. If you're searching for a movie that comes up right away under the apps area, you probably want to scroll down and go into the movie section for yourself. So again, keep that in mind. A lot of people get confused right away by not looking at what section they're actually searching under when they're typing in items. So if I go in, I search for Wall Street Journal, and I click on it, and it brings me up to an area now where I can go ahead and view the information about the app. And again, it has all the same common items that we've known to grow and love from like the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. So I can right away see the actual app, the name of the app. I can go ahead and I can install it for myself. This is a free app over here. So if I click on this little button here, this is how I actually grab the app for myself and install it. If the app was a paid app that wasn't free, let's see if we can find an example of a paid app here. Most of the stuff that's up front is going to be free stuff. Let's see, New York Times, let's see if there's any paid apps for that. So New York Times, that's all free stuff. But again, if it did have a price tag on it, it would show the price tag here, and it would force you to connect a credit card to your Microsoft account to purchase it. But as I tell people in all these Windows 8, Windows 10 classes is, most of the good stuff has free options out there. There's very rarely that you'll have to pay for an app. Usually if you're going for a paid app, it's going to be a very niche custom app for a particular interest that you have. Maybe like a game that you like Angry Birds or something like that. Most of the good games are paid these days. But a lot of the stuff like the news apps, sports apps, things like that, those are all have plenty of free options. MSN, Sports, Fox Sports, CBS, ESPN has an app on here as well, I know. So again, searching in the store, as you see, we have 2,000 results that came up just for sports over here. So say I wanted to go ahead and grab this app over here that I didn't have, CBS Sports Fantasy. I found it, I'm interested in it. I bring up the app page for myself. I can see some screenshots right away that shows me how the app is going to look and feel. So I can get a preview of what it's like. Maybe I don't like how it looks. I don't want to install it. In general, I want everyone to know as well that installing an app, removing it, uninstalling it is also very easy. Unlike a traditional app that takes a lot of time and things can go wrong, modern apps from the Windows Store are very easy. Just like on your iPhone or Android device, you can click install and you can also remove it with one click. So there's no fear of, is it going to ruin my computer or cause issues? If there's anything you don't like about it, you can easily get rid of it just as easily as you installed it. So I say, hey, I like the app, I want to go ahead and install it. I can go ahead and I can click on the little free button over here, and that will go ahead and show a little little status bar. I'll get a notification here next to my picture icon that shows me that it's downloading. And this is a very small app, so it should be pretty quick. This is also the same area where app updates will come. So if there are different apps that you install from the Windows Store and they have updates that come out, Windows Store will automatically go out, look for the updates and install them for you. You don't have to worry about it. The same kind of worry-free options you have on your iPhone or your iPad or your Android tablet. So it handles all that heavy lifting in terms of updating things and keeping them to the most recent version. So I can go ahead now, and I should in my start menu have the CBS Sports Fantasy app. I can go ahead and click on it and bring it up, and there it is. That's how simple installing a Windows Store app is. Very, very easy. If I wanted to get rid of that app, if I truly didn't want it installed on my computer, I can go ahead and I can find it either in my all apps list or just look at the recently added area. And that app icon I can right click on, just like we were doing before for resizing and pinning it to our start menu. We have an option to uninstall it. So if you didn't like it, right click on it, choose uninstall. It'll ask you once again, do you want to uninstall it? Click on uninstall, and it's gone. Removed from my computer, causing no damage, no harm, no issues. It's that simple. Anyone confused about any sections or items about apps and getting apps from Windows Store, moving them around, resizing them? Are we okay on that? Go ahead.
Does the number of apps on your computer affect the speed of booting up?
Traditional apps, the apps that we always used in the past, yes, those have a direct bearing on your computer. Windows Store apps, since they don't start up automatically and cannot tie into the startup processes of the machine, they should not cause any issues to your system. I mean, I guess the only time you would have an issue or see any kind of problem is if you had very little storage space and you were installing hundreds of apps, and especially games. Games are very large apps. So if you were installing a lot of those and you had an underpowered system, that's perhaps the only time you would see a performance problem. But otherwise, you can install as many as you want. As long as you're not running 50, 60 apps at a time, you shouldn't see any problems as well. So modern apps are much better in terms of performance and memory consumption, watching and making sure they're not trashing your machine behind your back. Okay? All right. Let's keep going. Moving along. Oh, one last thing about the start menu. There was actually a little hidden right-click menu on the old Windows 8 start button that most people didn't use. Some people did use. I do want you to know it's still there. I used it a lot, which is why I bring it up. It was really handy for me. If you right-click on your start button in the lower left-hand corner, you get a little secret menu that comes up with a lot of nifty power user options. Like you can go straight to the control panel or File Explorer. You can open up the run command from there. Again, this is probably more for power users, but I did want to show you because a lot of people I talked to did like this little option that Windows 8 introduced, and luckily it's still around in Windows 10. And again, that's just a right click of the start menu brings that full list up. And you can check those out on your computer. Later on, I'm not going to go through all the different items that are on that list. I wanted to mention briefly the start screen, how it looks for tablet users in Windows 10. I know we have one or two tablet-only users here in the crowd, so I did want to show you how that looks. And I'm going to recreate that on my computer by going in. And again, this same process you can use on your desktop or laptop if you want to have the full start screen experience. You can go in and out of it. And you can do that by going into the Action Center. So all the way in the bottom right-hand side, the little little blurb icon. I don't know, some people may not be able to see it, but it's a little icon that shows like little chat text, and that's the Action Center. If I go in there and I click on the little button that says tablet mode, that forces, and I can go back in and I can use Windows in the more traditional or the tablet style mode. And again, if you're a tablet user, this is what you would see and how your device would most likely work. So again, if you're using a tablet without a keyboard, you are forced into a full screen experience, and this is more of what Windows 8 users were used to using. A little bit different in terms of the all apps list. It's more following the Windows 10 desktop style, but in terms of the apps being on the screen and being able to move them around, it's just more of a full screen experience for you. And if you open up an app, it brings up into full screen mode only, and you can change between them as well from that.
Is this 10, or do I have to put a keyboard in it?
Let me see.
I didn't do anything to this. I did my desk.
Oh, this is not even a Windows device. This is a Samsung Android tablet actually.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of what I'm doing doesn't apply to
Okay.
these tablets. Some concepts do, but this is a completely different
I
ecosystem.
thought I was crazy.
No. Yeah, that is not a Windows device. So I'm sorry about that. So let's go back into regular desktop style mode. If I want to get out of this, I can just go back into my Action Center in the bottom right, click on the little tablet mode icon, and brings me back to my full desktop experience here. Okay. And again, if you're using a device with a removable, is your keyboard removable? Can you detach it from your device?
No.
You cannot?
I don't think I can, no.
Okay. Yeah, if you can't remove it, then this probably doesn't apply to you. But for, like if you're using a Surface Pro device, if anyone buys one of those, you take the keyboard off, it'll turn into full screen desktop mode automatically. So you won't have to use that manual option I was just showing. So, okay. All right, let's keep going. Let's go over Cortana a little bit. This is a brand new item to Windows 10. Hasn't been around before. You may like it, you may not. It's something that kind of needs to grow on you a little bit. It's not something that becomes apparent right off the bat. But right away when you install Windows 10, down here, there will be an option, and I forget how it looks because I already went through the steps, but it'll ask you, hey, do you want to turn on Cortana or enable Cortana functionality? You'll have to click through and say, I agree to the privacy settings, as this app does sift through. If you connect your mail account, it does sift through and find reminders and things from your email messages, things like that. And again, it's like a Siri for your desktop. I can't say it in any better way. It's a personal assistant that runs at all times on your computer. So Siri on the Apple devices, Google Now on the Android devices, this is Microsoft's answer to those two services. So as long as you go ahead and turn that on, you'll have a little option here to go ahead and ask Cortana anything really. And it works in two different fashions. So you can go ahead and there are some switch words that you can use to set up reminders for yourself. And I'll try a few of those to show you how this works. You can run searches with it, so it can search the web for you. And there are some neat little searches it can do where it'll bring up the whole search and response for you right within this area. So you don't even have to leave the little lower left-hand corner for what you're looking for. So let me show you how it works. So I guess this is something that needs to be demonstrated so you can know how this functionality functions. And I printed out the full commands list, which I also link to on the agenda. If you're interested in using this full time, I recommend you pull up and find the full commands list for Cortana, as it's not as useful if you're just guessing at what you're supposed to say, right? Same kind of way that you have to train and work with Siri to use that. And in the resources for further learning on the back of the agenda, there is a short link. It is link number, number 3. List of Cortana voice commands. That's where you can go and you can pull up this same list that I'm looking at right now with all the neat things that Cortana can say and do. So let's go ahead and try her out. Let's see what kind of things we can do with her. Some of the things on the list are meant for phones only, for Windows Phone. Since we're not on a phone right now, we're not going to worry about those. But let's go into some of the general things over here. Let's try this. All I have to do is click on the little microphone icon on the bottom right left-hand corner over here. Coming soon, I don't believe it's released yet, but coming soon, just like we have with the Siri, you can say, hey Siri, and you can start the Siri right away. Hey Cortana is going to be available if you have your microphone connected very soon. I don't believe you can do it yet, but soon Microsoft's going to unlock that where you can just say, hey Cortana, and then start speaking what you want to say to it. Okay, but for now you just have to click on it and just initiate it this way. So let me try a few quick things here. What's the weather today?
The forecast shows mostly sunny skies with a high of 69 and a low of 56.
So probably something you've tried with Siri or Google Now perhaps in the past, but we've never been able to do that on our computer system. Now we can. A lot of those same kind of commands. So as you saw, I just asked Cortana, what's the weather today? And really quickly, gives me a forecast, gives me temperature. It knows I'm in Lincolnwood, Illinois already, and it gives me my temperature scale for history over the 6-hour time span and whatnot. And I can go get further weather details from that. So that gives you a little bit of idea just what I could do with weather, for example. Let's try something different. Let's try a flight status. If I was checking on a flight that I was needed to get on in the afternoon or that I was going to very soon, or picking someone up. So let's try this. What's the status of flight AA5557? All right, so that, it misheard my words a little bit. Let me try that one more time. Again, your setting's probably going to be a little bit cleaner. We've got a little bit of background noise that's here since we're a large group, and also my microphone's a little bit further away, but if you were by your computer, your laptop, and your microphone's right in front of you, it's probably going to catch your words a little bit easier. So again, our live demo is affected by a few circumstantial things. Let's try this again. What is the flight status of AA5557? All right, that time didn't work. I tried it earlier and it worked. It worked perfectly for me. Let's try another one. Show me pizza restaurants nearby. So I can do a search really quickly. It'll bring up all the different pizza places. It knows where I'm at. It knows my zip code already, again, because it's pulled that off of my internet connection. And I can really quickly then get a list of all the pizza joints or whatever kind of restaurant I'm looking for. So a lot of neat different commands that we can use. And again, I recommend you take a look at the full list to get an idea of all the different things that can be done. It also works pretty well as a calculator. So we could try this. What is 21 divided by 7?
That makes 3.
There we go. So I could do calculations on there. How many inches are in a mile?
1 mile is 63,360 inches.
So if you're curious, stupid little facts and conversions like that. I was actually doing a sports search earlier. Let me see if this was the same one I was using. Let's try this. Who do the Blackhawks play next? Let's see. Last word, it cut off on me a little bit due to the mic. But when I did a search for it earlier, it brought up right within the window, Blackhawks are playing this team on this date, and you can watch it on this channel.
What's the Bears score?
Oh, let's try that. Perfect. Sound down. Let's try it. What is the score of the Chicago Bears game?
The Bears lost to the Packers 23-31.
All right. There you go. Cortana gave us the bad news, so you can thank her later.
Now you are using Bing, not Edge, right?
So Bing is the search engine that is powering the information that is feeding Cortana. So Edge is the actual web browser that is used to display all the results, but the information is being fed by the Bing search service. So they work together, but they're still two separate entities.
So Edge is like Chrome.
Edge is like Chrome. You got it. Edge is like Chrome and Firefox. It's a program we use to browse the web.
And Bing is Google.
And Bing is like Google search. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
You have to have an external microphone then connected to your mic.
You have to have some kind of microphone. This is an external mic that we're using over here. If you have a laptop, every laptop in the last 8 years has a microphone built into it. If you don't have one of those, if you have an external webcam, webcams have a built-in microphone into it. If you don't have one of those, you might have to just get some kind of microphone device, either a headset or a desktop webcam with a mic built in, or a standalone microphone like this. So a lot of options out there. Yes, go ahead, Jen.
Is Cortana as snarky as Siri?
There are some things you can say to set it off a little bit. Let's see if there's any snarky questions over here. There are some of those items that you can ask it. I don't know over here which of those is, but there are some goofy things you can ask it as well that'll get a little bit snippy with you too. Let's try this. What's the population of India? What is the population of India? Didn't like that question for some reason. And again, this is not a real life environment because we got a little bit of background noise and the mic's a little further away. But for the most part, if you're in a quiet environment, it should work fine. Let's try this one. Show me today's news.
Here are top stories for today. The first headline is, thousands flee fast-moving, out-of-control California fire as governor expands state of emergency.
So there we go. We could do new searches off of it. And this is one of those things that, even though this list exists today for what we can ask it, what we can do with it right now, Cortana is a service that Microsoft is updating and improving every single day. So the kind of things we can ask, the kind of things we can do are changing on a weekly basis. So this list is going to get out of date very, very quickly. And the service is only going to get better. And since we have now almost 100 million people on Windows 10, yeah, they've moved very quick. We have a lot of people running this already. It's going to get better and better because there's so many people that are using the service today. So there's a lot of telemetry and things that Microsoft's able to use to improve how the service works. So even though Cortana's a little rough around the edges today, right now, I would bet that 6 months from now, it's going to be pretty darn slick. Go ahead.
Do you always have to address it like a Jeopardy question?
You don't have to. I'm trying to address it in a proper manner so that we have less false positives.
I'm not sure if that was the code to get it to start.
No. The code to get it to start is me clicking on the microphone icon. I don't have to do anything. Once the Hey Cortana comes up, then yeah, you can say Hey Cortana, and then you can start your question or query that you want to do. But at least for now, I'm just trying to keep it so that we have less broken searches. So.
Can we have technical help from Cortana?
What, help?
Yeah, technical help. Yeah. Because last night I was looking for something, and then do you need help from Cortana? You can ask for.
I think that was just the screen that comes up if it doesn't understand what I'm saying. I think that's why that came up. When I had that one, I had the one search, so what's the population of India?
I was looking for something last night.
Yeah.
And then Cortana said, "Do you need help? Just ask Cortana."
It could be, yes. There are periods of time. If Cortana notices that you're doing searches or you're having a hard time finding something, it probably will pop up. And I can't demonstrate that since I'm not doing anything like that right now. But
Yeah,
I've heard that it will pop up and say, hey, do you need help finding recipes for cooking tonight? Something like that. So
Can I write or can I speak?
you can speak it. If you have a mic, you can by all means speak it. I mean, if I was looking for recipe, find recipes for making spaghetti. There we go. I can just do a search. So some things will launch just a regular web result. Some things will launch into a more customized result from Cortana. It just depends on, does it have the knowledge to be able to give that customized result, or does it just say, hey, I don't understand what you meant. I'm just going to give you a search result, more like this. So it just depends. But again, by default, yes, you can speak anything you can type into Cortana's little search window. Yes?
Is there an icon for Cortana?
Yes, on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Once you turn it on, it doesn't show up right away, but you have to go ahead and put your mouse cursor in the little search bar first, and then it'll ask you, hey, do you want to turn on the Cortana capabilities? You'll have one box you have to click through that says, yes, I'm okay with the privacy settings, and then it turns on the little microphone icon. That's a microphone icon, and that's pretty much the icon for Cortana. So I can go ahead, of course, I could do a search by typing in here for myself, but I think if you have a microphone, speaking into it is much, much cleaner and easier. So I would recommend using a mic, because I just think it's faster and it's a little neater. So And it can do alerts as well. It's not just questions that it can answer. There are items on here that you can do about reminding you. What was the one that I did? Remind me at 4 p.m. to submit my timesheet.
Okay, remind you to submit my timesheet at 4 p.m. today. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remind you. You can also see it in your reminders list anytime.
So what that does is it goes ahead and, for example, I just set up a reminder for myself that'll tie into my calendar. If I have my calendar tied in on the Windows Mail program, it'll go to my calendar and then it'll pull up on my phone as well. So that'll show up as a calendar entry for me on my calendar. So you can see how this starts to travel across the services we use. This doesn't have to be just something that sits right on your computer. This can travel to your phone if you have your email and your calendar and your contact account connected into the Windows Mail app on the computer. That's where really Cortana starts to shine, because then she'll remind you if you need to leave. Like, for example, on my phone, when I need to leave for an appointment, it'll tell me, hey, traffic looks like this. You need to get going for your class on Windows 10 at this time because traffic conditions are of this nature. So you'll have those kind of things popping up on your desktop if you integrate your calendar and other things like your address book, things of that nature. So very, very neat. Yes, go ahead.
Is it able to do multiple reminders during a day? For example,
I have never read anything of why it couldn't do multiple reminders. I stacked up a few test reminders earlier and all of them worked just fine. Let's try another reminder here. Remind me to buy gas when I leave work.
Where should I remind you?
I'm not sure what response it was looking for on that, so that one was a little bit goofy. Let's try this. When my wife calls, remind me to ask her to pick up the kids.
Where should I remind you?
Looking for a time.
Remind me to check the mail when I get home.
All right, what's the location?
I think he's looking for a time. Can't put it on the
No, I think it was looking for address. It was asking for what address it was supposed to go to. See, the reason it's having some issues is because when you're supposed to set it up, and during setup there's a process that also asks you what is considered work, what is considered home, other places of interest. So then those are preloaded, and then you can just say work, home. I didn't go through all that setup yet, so it still doesn't understand what is my home, what is my work. So that's why it's being a little bit finicky right now. But if you go through the full proper setup and put those addresses in, then it won't be acting so childish. It is responses. So, and again, it's a learning process. It'll take time for it to learn the kinds of things you're searching for, the kinds of things you do, the reminders that you like to set, and it'll become more customized as time goes on. So it's very much like Siri, and then it gets better the longer you use the device, and the more search queries you're doing, the more you're talking to it as time goes on. Okay?
Are you also on your phone?
You actually can get Cortana on Android devices, and very soon you'll be able to get it for the iPhone as well. So very soon it's going to be available across all the major phones. Just not yet. So for the most part, the computer is the best place you're going to be able to get it. Right now we're on a Windows phone. Go ahead.
How we get the reminder? Is flashing? Is like a
When the time comes, a little box will pop up on the lower left-hand side, and it'll show you the reminder for that. It's not going to flash that much, but it'll come up. Well, it's not going to be that obnoxious, but it'll bring up a little window just to show you, hey, there's a reminder for whatever item you have. So, and again, if it's being too loud and it's making too much noise on the screen for you, there are also settings you can adjust to turn the reminder down to not make it as obnoxious for yourself. So there are some adjustment settings you can make for that too. Okay. Is there anything else on Cortana that I wanted to discuss here? Yeah, one last thing actually. If we're doing a search for something in the Cortana bar over here, do know, actually here you go. If I bring up my little bar over here, it tells me there's my reminder that I just set. It's for submitting my timesheet. But this bar also doubles, not just as a Cortana bar, but also doubles as a search bar. You can search for anything on your computer right from that bar as well. So before in Windows 7, you had to go into My Computer and then search in the upper right-hand corner. At least that's how I used to do it. Now you can just go ahead, put your cursor right into that bar, and search for whatever document you're looking for. Let's see if I have anything with recipe in it. Yeah, I got a recipes folder in my OneDrive that it's pulling up. So I can just search for files right within my computer. It's actually a baked sausage recipe that I had stored in my account that it found. So again, you can really quickly search. You can start a web search with Cortana Bar, or you can do a search just on your computer. So it doubles as a search for the web or a search on your actual machine. So that's one other nice thing about it as well. And if I was doing a search, like let's go back to a recipe search, I can change. If you look over here, where's my laser? If you look over here, there's an option to change from between my stuff to the web. I can change that search context right away for myself. So if I knew I wasn't looking for recipes on my computer, I could change over to on the web, click on that, and it opens up a Bing results window where I can now just view it in Microsoft Edge for myself. So again, very quick and easy to do searches and change between your computer or just search on the web right away. Okay? Any other Cortana questions? Because I got a few other items I want to get through before we get to Q&A. Okay? Microsoft Edge. Let's spend a few minutes on Edge. So Edge is the new browser that replaces Internet Explorer. And if you need to get back to Internet Explorer, I might be able to show you that right now. I put a little link in the resources area to how to get back to it if you forget. But it's really simple. All you have to do is just do a search for Internet Explorer, and it comes up as a desktop app. And you could launch it if you really, really miss Internet Explorer. So, simple as that. So it's not out in the open. Microsoft doesn't want us to be using it unless we really, really have to. But if you've got a bank website or some other custom website that just hates every other web browser, just do a search in the Cortana bar for Internet Explorer. And there we go. It even says, hey, Edge is the recommended browser, but you can get Internet Explorer if you want to. You can click on it, and then you can use it. If you want to make a shortcut for it, you can find that little search result. You can right-click on it, and you can do pin to start or pin to taskbar. So I can make a little icon on the bottom of my screen if I really, really wanted that there for myself. So hopefully that answers your question of how to get back into Internet Explorer. But let's take a look at Edge. So Edge is the new web browser. Follows a very similar layout to Google Chrome, so a tabbed window kind of scheme at the top that you can use to change between different tabs that you have. I can open up a new tab using the plus button over here. So again, all those things from Firefox and Chrome that we've been using for so many years now, it follows that same concept. So we're not really relearning the wheel here. We're just sort of using a little bit different and revised interface. The file menu and all those menu bars have been removed to, again, minimize the amount of junk space, so we have more space to view the things we want to view, our websites that we're looking at. We've got the back and forward button. We've got a refresh button over here. And as you can see, the titles have all been removed. So if you're curious about what a button does, just roll over with your mouse, and it'll tell you. It should tell you what that button's for. Refresh, for example, is what that button does. So again, once you learn the buttons, you won't have to be, curious about what they do. It'll become second nature, just like any other web browser that we use. One of the biggest things I wanted to show off from Edge is the new item called Web Notes for annotation. This is something that no other browser has that I know of. So here's what we can do. Let's go on to the Google News website, for example. And we'll go into a news article here. And one of the things that I can do is that any website, a
three-time NBA MVP.
Don't start. One of the things I can do is now I can annotate right over a live website for myself. So how does this work? Say I was doing going through this, or I wanted to save annotations over this page for myself, or maybe I was chalking this up for something for school or work. I could go ahead and use this little option up here called Make a Web Note, right up here. It's a little pen over a notepad. I can click on that, and now it brings me into a full screen editing mode. And it leaves open exactly where I am, right on the screen right now. I can go ahead and scroll around if I need to, but if I have my mouse in the content area of the actual screen, by default, see I have a blue pen that's turned on right now. I can go ahead and highlight. Yeah, that was that section that we were talking about, and then that was that sentence that we were trying to discuss over there. So I can annotate that web page really quick, and maybe a little bit further down. I can scroll down, highlight that a little bit. I can even bring up a little highlighter over here, a yellow highlighter. So the button just next to that is a highlighter. Just up here, all your common commands, blue pen or different color pens, highlighter, eraser, and then you can also make notes where you can type in notes for yourself as well. So all those common functions are available right up there. I can highlight, and this becomes even easier on a tablet style convertible like a Surface with a pen. This becomes all natural, turns into a pretty much a digital notebook for yourself, and you can use all those same things and make highlights over yourself, and I can erase them if I don't want them. Bop, 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 get rid of that, get rid of this, da, 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 and it's back to normal now.
Did you print it?
So what you can do is you can save that. If you click on save over here, it'll push it into the OneNote program, and then you can go ahead and print it. So it's a two-step process if you want to go ahead and print that. I presume they're going to make that easier at some point down the road, because I think a print button is definitely missing from this upper toolbar.
OneNote will save the format.
This will save into OneNote, and from OneNote, the Microsoft OneNote program, then we can print it right from there as a regular PDF or something.
Will OneNote save the format of the web page?
Yes, it saves the annotations for you, and then you can push that out into a regular print for yourself. So if you're trying to, instead of printing out the web page first and using pen to go ahead and annotate it, I can annotate it first, push it to OneNote, print it, and I can just make copies of that if I was giving it out to coworkers or family members or students that I was working with. So it makes that process a lot easier than it used to be in the past. So that's web annotation. I can also go ahead and I can clip out a part of the screen. If I wanted to just say, take for example, just these few paragraphs, I could use the clipping option available right over here, upper left-hand corner, a little clipping, looks like a pair of scissors. It says drag to copy region, and say I wanted to just copy out just this over here for myself. I can find that, select it, it's copied, so it copies it to my clipboard, and I can paste it into a Word document, or paste it into an email that I was making for someone. So again, these functions that we used to take a few steps to get to, now we can really quickly do them right up the top using this web annotation function within Edge. So pretty neat. I could also go ahead, if I had Facebook or LinkedIn connected, I could use the share button, and I could share out through an email. I could share through OneNote. If I had Facebook, it would offer a Facebook option, LinkedIn option, any other social media service as well. So you could share out and push it out to your activity feed, your wall if you wanted to, really quickly too. So that social media aspect is also built into there. And if I want to exit out, if I don't want to annotate anymore, just click on exit in the upper right-hand corner, and ba-boom, we're back to normal website mode. Very cool. One other thing we can do, one other big new
A three-time NBA MVP.
That we can do is we can go into what's called Reading View. Reading View is also brand new to Microsoft Edge. It's the little button next to the favorites star in the address bar of the window. And if I click on that, watch what happens. Now, I didn't test this website to see if it worked beforehand. This is a live demonstration, so it may or may not work, but let's see. If I go into reading mode, it takes all the advertising, all the menu bars, all the garbage on websites and makes it into a nice book or page format. So now I can read it cleanly. If I was presenting this or working on it with a student or one of my kids, I could take off all the junk and now view it as a regular book or a page or an article without all the gunk on it. So it takes all that out. Unfortunately, it takes the video aspect out of it, since a video can only work in regular web viewing mode. But if we're reading a long article and we don't care about all the distracting ads, you can turn it into reading mode and enjoyably read that page without all the gunk, like that. And that should work on most sites that are using
A three-time NBA MVP, Moses Malone.
She's done. This should work on most websites that are following modern web standards. Some older websites that aren't formatted in clean modern ways, it may not work, but it does the best that it can to juxtapose and change things around on the screen, we can go over to Wall Street Journal. For example, we'll do a live test on that really quick, see if that works. But I've tested this on many websites, and I haven't been able to toss many at it that didn't work okay. Oh, I guess we got to pay for Wall Street Journal now. Let's try Chicago Tribune. Oh, really? Oh, boy. All right, we're going back to Google News.
Unless you go through the Lincolnwood Library.
Google News is always free. They don't use many links that go to paid resources. So let's try this over here. Let's try this wildfire story over here from Seattle Pie. And once it loads, this icon turns black, and then I can click on it, and let's see what we get. There we go. It worked. A little bit of goofiness on some of the buttons I presume we're going to be here for changing between pictures, but for the most part, it's a nice, readable, clean web page.
And
So,
then you can do the highlighting and everything.
and you should be able to go into highlighting annotation mode right through there. So we go. I turned it on. Now we can go ahead. I can highlight over here for myself, and I can then go ahead and I can push that out into OneNote for myself and send it out for printing if I wanted to. So pretty cool. Yes.
I was just curious, and this Edge replaces Mozilla?
It doesn't replace it. It is another option next to Mozilla.
But it's preferred.
Well, Microsoft prefers it because it's their product, but I would say it's just an option. It's an alternative. Like I said, it doesn't have all the baggage Internet Explorer did, all the security problems Internet Explorer did. It is actually a good, decent new browser with a lot of neat features. So I'm not saying you have to use it. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying consider it, try it. If you don't like it, go back to Chrome or Firefox. That's all. Any other questions about Edge?
Can it be
Yes.
used on an older operating system?
Cannot. Edge is only available on Windows 10. You will not get it on any other version of Windows. Okay? So let's exit annotation mode, let's exit reading mode, and go back to normal web mode. All right, so that's Edge. A few last things I want to get to. We got about 10, 15 minutes here. So a few productivity items that I wanted to highlight that are new in Windows 10. So let's go back to our desktop view over here. Snap to Edge. This was something that was a little painful in Windows 7 and Windows 8. Never worked exactly right. But now it's actually pretty decently powerful. So if I just have a single screen and I wanted to align items nicely for myself on the desktop, again, not everyone will be interested in doing this, but I know more than a few people will. If I had a web page open like this, for example, that I wanted to stack maybe on the left-hand side, I could just go ahead and move that window all the way to the left, and you see the little pop-out animation that shows up? That tells me. I don't know if the projector shows it as well. It's a little washed out because of the lights, but there's an animation that shows when you drag to the left-hand side of your screen that is like a little bubble behind the scenes, and that tells you, hey, you're snapping to a 50% split screen view. So pretty much what happens is that. And then if I have other windows open, it gives me the option to go ahead and have my right-hand side filled in by my Windows Store or my Camtasia or whatever other programs I have open. So it's contextual based upon what apps are open on this desktop at this current time. So it's a lot easier than it used to be, because before you had to actually go into each app and bring it out and snap it manually. Now Microsoft makes it so much easier because you snap one thing and it allows you to snap in your next item really, really quickly for yourself. So I'll take Store and I'll bring it there. Maybe I wanted to just make Store in the bottom right-hand corner, just take up a quarter of my screen. I could drag it, bottom right-hand corner, and it only uses a quarter of my screen. Camtasia can then take up the remaining half side of that screen. So again, stacking things nicely to be able to do multiple things at a time, quite a bit easier than it used to be in the past. And if you have multiple computer monitors, it's even better, because this becomes even more useful, because you can have 2 times, 3 times the amount of things open and stacked at any given moment for yourself, okay? Virtual desktops. I wish I got to this sooner. This is one of the coolest new functions next to Cortana in Windows 10. And again, this allows us to have multiple different desktops running in the background with different things open. It's still your computer. It's not a different computer. It's not another computer. It's just multiple virtual desktops that allow you to have the things open so you can change between them and keep a logical workflow between them. So let's show an example here. So if I click on this little task view button over here on the bottom of the screen in the taskbar, it's like an icon that shows, it's pretty much just showing like 3 different desktops in there. So you just have to get used to using that little button. And if you click on that, it shows me by default, I have no other desktops open, but if I wanted to open a new desktop for myself, all the way in the bottom right-hand corner is a little button that says plus, new desktop. Might be hard to see for some of the people over here, but I guarantee you, there's a little button that says new desktop. If I click on that, it opens up another desktop for me. So my original desktop is desktop 1. My second desktop is now this blank desktop over here. So when I open up desktop 2, so I just click on it, I have a blank desktop. My programs that I was running on the other desktop don't go away. They're still running. They're just not visible on this screen over here. So why is this useful? Why would you use this? Well, this is for people that have a single computer screen where you don't have multiple screens to use, but you want to have things organized in different ways on different screens. For example, I got some people I know that have one desktop open with their music app open all the way, and they're running their music just so they can have their, skip forward, choose your music selection experience. Then they have another desktop open that is just their work items, well, like a letter that they're working on. Maybe they have WordPad open over here. So they're typing something, blah, 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 typing that letter to their girlfriend or friend, and then they want to go back and they want to change that song. So how did we used to do it? We used to have to, the music window was behind here, which was behind here, which I have to go ahead and find out. If I had 10 things open, it was dug all the way behind the scenes. Now I can just simply have another desktop. So if I go back to the task view item all the way at the bottom here, brings up my options for my different desktops, and I can just say, hey, music was on desktop 2, go there, manipulate my music, and then I can go back to my first desktop and keep working the way everything was. So it allows me to keep my windows where I like them and not have to dig through multiple different things just to get to what I wanted to. So everyone's use case for virtual desktops is going to be a little bit different. You may not even use them at all, but some of you power users, some of you that like to have a lot of windows open, like my girlfriend, she has like 50 things open at once and can never seem to make sense of it on one single desktop screen. Now she can split that into logical work zones for herself. And if I wanted to move a program between desktops, say that I opened up a website that was related to what I was doing with music, and I wanted that on my desktop too, no big deal. I can open up my desktop's mode here, my task view, and I could say, hey, desktop 1 has my control panel open. I want that on desktop 2. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to left click on it, I'm going to drag it, boom, drop it over there. OneDrive, I want moved over to desktop 2, like that. So now, desktop 1 lost those apps, and they took over on desktop 2. So there they are. There's my OneDrive, there's my control panel. And if I didn't like that, I can go back and I can do it again. Go back to my task view, and I can move those back into desktop 1. Hold and drag into desktop 1. Move that, and move that. And it brought it back over here for me.
So how many desktops can you actually...
Good question. I asked that to someone else, and I couldn't find an answer to it. I think there's some kind of magical limit that is based upon how powerful your computer is. I highly doubt you're ever going to reach that limit. No, I think it's probably somewhere in the tens of dozens to maybe lower hundreds. But again, that is based upon how powerful your computer is. More powerful recent machines will be able to have more of those. I don't even think 100 desktops would be useful to anyone. I mean, that's just too many. So, the sky's the limit, I would say. But manageable amount is probably between 3 to 6 for most people.
It's really nice. I've used it.
So virtual desktops is pretty neat, especially if you only have one computer screen and you don't have like 2 screens like I got at my office. So it makes life very nice on a single screen interface for you. I'm going to skip the game DVR option for recording. I might touch on that if someone wants me to show that in the Q&A. Keyboard shortcuts. There's a few new keyboard shortcuts specific to Windows 10 I wanted to show you all. If you go Windows key plus tab on your keyboard, what that does is it brings you into your virtual desktops view, so you can very quickly change between those. And if you bring that up, you can go ahead and also there's a keyboard shortcut for Windows key plus control. So for example, if I did Windows key, control, and then left or right, I could just change between my desktops really quick. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All right, that's enough. So the keyboard shortcut is on the back of the agenda, all the way at the bottom, but if you do Windows key, control, and then left or right on your arrow keys, you can switch between them. So the more desktops you have, obviously this becomes really nice and easy because you could just really quickly change between your different screens for yourself. So it makes that nice and simple. And then Alt plus Tab, it works as it used to before. A lot of people used to use this to change between different apps. You can still use Alt plus Tab. You can bring it up, hold down Alt, and then you can change between different apps you have open, or just keep hitting the Tab key once you hit Alt, and you'll change between any different app that you want to open up. So Alt plus Tab is still there, works the same way as it did in Windows 7. So that is it in terms of my formal content. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. We're running right up against 4 o'clock here, but we still got a raffle to give out 2 items with, and I want to see if there's any final questions from everyone. Go ahead.
When you're running that compatible checker,
Yes.
and it shows that it's not compatible with some things that you really want, can you back out of the upgrade to Windows 10?
So I'll say this. You will not even be starting the process until after you've got all your problems resolved with those applications. So there's a stop that happens where you can't move on unless you resolve the issues with those things.
So let's say...
So it comes up before the upgrade process even begins.
So let's say you have a game on there
Yeah.
that you want to keep,
Sure.
and it shows that it's not compatible.
Mhm.
Do you have to delete that game before it'll allow you to upgrade to Windows 10?
There's a few different ways it could work. It could say, hey, we'll let you install, but you might have issues with this game after Windows 10 is done. Or if it's a hard incompatibility, it might say, hey, this needs to be removed from the system before you can upgrade. And as a general rule of thumb, the older it is, after 5, 6, 7 years, that's the kind of zone where we get into the murky area of where you might have to remove it entirely from the machine. Go ahead.
Yeah, my son has the same computer that I have. I've got the Windows 10 on it. He
Okay.
hasn't used his for a long time.
Okay.
Because he has a work computer.
Sure.
And when he checked to see if he could get the free download
Mhm.
of Windows 10, it said no, because apparently since he hasn't used it, he hasn't gotten the consistent updates.
It could be if you haven't used the machine for very long, it might require him to do his Windows updates on there to get himself to a certain baseline of compatibility.
How would he do those? Just
He would have, well, I can't show you the old Windows update area, but if he goes into the control panel on his machine,
yeah.
so if he goes into here in control panel, and there will be a Windows update option that exists, and he has to go through that and run and check all the updates, make sure they all get installed.
Thanks.
Then you can be at a point where Windows will say, hey, we're ready to get started for Windows 10. Yes?
When I installed Windows 10, it let me go through and install it. However, it got rid of one of the drives, which was the sound.
The drivers, the sound drivers?
Yes. And it gave me a box to click on to correct it.
Okay.
But it wouldn't take it, so I had to have somebody do it.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many millions of combinations of computer hardware that there may be things like that happen. Yeah.
It took 3 minutes to fix.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Usually, that's just a matter of downloading the proper hardware device driver from the manufacturer, and then it'll work after
They
that.
were talking about, you said you can't go through to Windows 10 unless you fix everything.
Well, I mean, there are situations where something may not be caught. I mean, I'm not saying the process is perfect.
I'm just telling everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it may happen where there's something that gets let through, but it then doesn't work after the upgrade, and you have to go back and fix it. I mean, it has happened. We've run into it in the last 2 weeks, so yeah, it exists.
Devastated.
Go ahead. Yes.
It happened to me too, and then there is a line that says push DLT or whatever, and
There's our notification. If you're curious, it's on the right-hand side, and I can snooze it or consider it complete and choose my time for snoozing. So there we go, live demo of notifications working.
Was yours sound?
yeah, I said that maybe Windows 10, didn't correctly, so type whatever, I don't remember the letters, and,
Yeah.
and then I did, and boom, yeah.
I didn't even notice it till I was watching.
Sometimes something.
Yeah, sometimes the things don't come out on the surface right away, and you have to use it for a few days to realize.
We know how to fix it, just type that is a demo.
Yeah, but compared to the problems we used to have in the old versions of Windows on upgrading, Windows 10's made things so much easier. So
It was a new computer.
yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
I just want to understand Bing. I understand what you're saying about Edge.
Mhm.
What is Bing compared to Edge? How do you
So let's look at it this way. Bing is in comparison to Google, right? Google is a search engine that we use. Bing is just Microsoft's search engine.
Okay.
And Bing is needed for Cortana to have all of its data fed into it. So it just uses Bing as its nucleus, as its brain.
I see, got it.
So that's all it is. And then Edge is a competitor to Chrome and Firefox, or the old Internet Explorer. It's just a program we use to browse the internet.
So
That's
do you
all.
really need do you really need Firefox?
That's a personal question. That's something you'll have to figure out. I can't answer that for you. If you don't like it, if you don't like Microsoft Edge, you may need Firefox, or you may want to go to Chrome. It's a personal decision. It's not a matter of you have to use one or the other. It's a matter of what do you like using. I have customers that like Firefox. I have customers that prefer Chrome. I have some that just can't let go of Internet Explorer. It's all a matter of what you like.
And
Right?
if you're not constantly using, let's say, Firefox,
Yeah.
then you were behind in updates, obviously, if you're not using, because if you're using it, it's going to prompt you for updates. wouldn't it?
I'll say this: if you're if you're not using Firefox consistently, it's not doing its automatic updates. But Firefox, at least for the last 12 versions or so, has had automated update processes where you can't even use it until it forces the update for itself. So they've gotten pretty good on forcing the updates. And of course, with Edge, you're going to get it as part of your Windows update, so the same seamless process for that. Yes?
I have a Windows 7 computer laptop.
Yeah.
Which has crashed.
Mhm.
Would you be able to repair it for a fee?
We definitely would, yeah. We would have to take a look at it, and I'd be able to give you an estimate for, what it would cost to repair, or if it's better just to replace it if the damage is too deep. So we can talk about that after class is done, okay? Go ahead.
I have both. I have the Google, and then now the
Yes.
Edge. And then my nephew said, I use Edge to get into I cannot get into my favorites. What is the problem?
Well, that's a question of depends on what you were using previously, where your favorites were stored, right? If you were using Chrome or Firefox,
No, I had Explorer.
Explorer.
And then they started, it was, getting off of
Mhm.
canceling the Explorer. And then I got a new computer, and my neighbor said, okay, let's start at Google. It's much better than
So it could have been that he didn't move the favorites over. It could have been the favorites were left behind on the old computer. It happens. I mean, you have to
But
move
can
the
I-
favorites.
I mean, the Edge is right there, but I had a Google though. Can I continue, using Google?
You can. You definitely can. We were just talking about that. It's a personal preference. You can use whichever browser you
Doesn't
want.
matter but can I use both?
You can use both at the same time. I do it all the time.
Without deleting the other one?
Of course.
Oh,
You can have Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Edge open all at the same time doing different things. Microsoft doesn't care.
I have my web page connected to Google. I get to Google and then
Using. Some people have preferences and have certain needs, and it's up to you. I'm not going to say which one you should be using.
But,
You said that you have to have either a local or Microsoft account.
Sure.
If you pick a Microsoft account, is it easier to hack? Or can people get into
It's
your
only easier to
personal
hack
file?
if your password is very bad. And Microsoft's going to force you to keep a certain level of secure password, but really it's a matter of people's passwords being poor that allows people to hack into the accounts. It's not the service itself. Microsoft's account system or OneDrive has never been hacked. So it's a very secure, solid platform. It's just you need to make sure you're using a good password with it. So that's the one nuance I'll say in terms of keeping your security high. Okay? Since Internet Explorer is still available, I won't say it replaces it. I mean, you're supposed to be using Edge going forward, but as I showed you, you can still get to Internet Explorer if you really want to. So Microsoft's goal is to get people truly off of Internet Explorer sometime in the next 3 to 4 years. Can uninstall it. Internet Explorer and Edge are forced programs that are deep within the system. You will never be able to take them off. Explorer plus Edge is pretty much how it works. Yeah. Which is fine. I wouldn't worry about it. Your Windows updates are all forced on you now anyway, so you're always being forced to stay up to date. So I wouldn't worry about the security ramifications of, am I up to date or not with that?
You have a note on the bottom here
Yeah.
to ask you about ESET. What is that? ESET antivirus software protection?
It's just it's the security program that we recommend most for people on their computers, Windows or Mac.
What would make it better than, for example, a free Comcast Norton's or a McAfee system?
That's a good question, and the answer to that is, out of the multiple hundreds of computers that we see in our office every single year, we've come to see what the trends are, and in general, the Nortons, the McAfees, the AVGs, the AVAS programs, those are the ones that we see becoming infected more and more. I can't recall last time I've seen a machine with ESET become infected from something, as long as it was licensed and up to date. So it's a matter of what we've seen in terms of our experiences with all the different major suites out there. That's
Does that include malware and all that other?
all that stuff, yeah. Malware is the whole category of all the junk that gets on computers these days. So viruses, Trojans, dialers, keyloggers, all that junk gets blocked by ESET, yeah.
And is that your only base price, or do you have other pricing?
We have different options. I can talk with you about that after class if you want to. Any other questions about Windows 10? I know I want to do the raffle right away. We're going a little bit long. It's about 4:07. I know everyone's waiting. If you didn't get your raffle ticket into the bucket, I will take it.
Oh, I did not, where's the ticket?
No, the tickets are over here. If you didn't get one, you can just come up to the table here
Maybe it's another.
and fill one out. Just right over here.
Just wait for 5 minutes.
Wait a few moments, make sure everyone can get in. And I guess I'll say what is in our 2 goodie bags today. A few items. Flash drive, one of our FireLogic flash drives is in here. These are pretty good drives, not junky ones that a lot of other places give away. I've got a notepad in here, a sticker, a few other small tchotchkes, and a special 20% off discount card for our services for anything you want to do through December of 2016 with us. So we only hand out 20% discounts here at the library. Everyone got their coupon or ticket in? Because we're going to draw. Who doesn't have a ticket?
I put it in.
Oh, you put it in here, right? Okay. All right. All right, everyone's tickets are in? All right, let me stop the recording so we don't get any names on the audio here.